Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Friday, August the 5th, 2018. Wait, did I say August? I did, didn't I? Oh my God. No, it's October the 5th.
Okay.
So why did I say August? I wonder. I'll have to go figure that one out. Today is the beginning of Venus retrograde. So interesting how we're going to be talking about you've got to hold your frequency tonight, because being in some of the most intense energetics in quite some time, astrologically speaking, specifically when it comes to relationships. And I'm noticing that they're all relationships, not just romantic, but familial. I can even have to do with relationship with things as well as people, systems,
structures
as well. Yep, all kinds of stuff. And not lost on me that we're going to talk about this tonight. So cool. I'm joined, of course, by my gal pals, my posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. Thanks for joining me, ladies. So we have to hold our frequency. And there's testing, choosing, being offered all over the place for that, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
I experienced that quite a bit myself.
And it's funny what Clear Isabella came in for me to say is you reap what you sow. And in these moments, right this moment, you do it really fast, and these are supercharged, fast germinating seeds that will go from sown to reapable in a nanosecond.
Wow.
You may not like what you're reaping, but hey, it's nonetheless the harvest is there to harvest.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Now I feel like there's it's all right there. I mean, that's not to say that it's easy to hold your frequency, especially if it's you're kind of new at it,
and the other thing is that wherever you are at that moment, if you're consciously putting effort into, you're consciously putting intention in, and you do that in your choosing, you do that in noticing things, how you play with things, how you behold things, what is coming forward for you, what wants to be given voice to, either something else outside of you, seemingly, or you giving voice yourself. And we've talked about this, well, pretty much every conversation of holding, your highest, absolute highest frequency vibration that you can, not only in each moment, but then in ways that where you sustain it, and then you may go to another level. And when this conversation came in about having this conversation titled this way, there was in that download there was this fits in a whole lots of things, but there was a very specific reason for it, specific areas that it encompasses, and specific, although absolutely fits in again with all sorts of other moments, but specific to these moments that we're in right this moment, as things are unfolding, things are moving fast, and as we talked about the other night, reaching out and doing your mission. So thinking of playing with, feeling into different ways that you can connect more, because people need that compassion. People need that energetic helping hand. They may need an actual physical helping hand as well, because their world that they thought, a bunch of people whose world they thought was going just swimmingly, or would go just swimmingly if it wasn't for a certain 6'2.5", maybe 6'3" gentleman, it would go really swimmingly, is going to come crashing down, because all of the projection, all of the kind of the coalescing of the ball of wax of what they think is wrong is they're about to find out that was absolutely perpetrated on a much larger extent by the phrase that came to mind was everybody else except for that. Now, that's not to say that this, one gentleman is lily white, because none of us are actually. We've
Right.
been around the multiverses for eons, and we've all been lily white, and we've all been, black as pitch, because that's the way it goes. But anyways, right this moment, in whether you're just having a conversation, whether you're just going into a store and not actually speaking or conversing or connecting to anyone, you've got to hold your frequency the highest that it possibly is, because there's a lot of bandwidth infiltration that is occurring. Some of that is just because of the frequencies of others is very pointy. It's very, it's so charged in a discordant way that the frequency the structure of the frequency elements and vibrations that come off are actually pointy is the best way I can describe it, because it's a more of a tactile feeling and energetic thing. But they intrude. They kind of, if you got a big plastic bag and you have something, something that looks like this, it's maybe not your hand, but it's pokey, it will poke through. So by holding your frequency in that state to what you decide that it is, that will alleviate that. So that's one component of that. There's another component, is that all of the structures and tools and systems and machines, because it's all of those things, that were used to interject frequencies into you that you probably, if you had been aware of it, would have said, no, thanks, I'm good, I don't want that, are all, the dial has been sponged, just turn it up as high as it can go in a scattershot approach. And so that's another reason why you've got to hold your frequency and then expand it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, that fits into what's going on right this moment. And you can take examples, and you could probably have 20 different examples, and there would be different things that are going on, different things at play going on in those different examples, and they can be a combination of broadly of those two things. One where there's that cognitive dissonance that's coming off of people and what's going on, and sometimes they're actually combined. And then there's also that tuning up of the interference bands that are coming into people.
Something just kind of came in for me in regards to some of this too, and that is I'm feeling like when you're speaking in regards to, how it's been turned up as high as it can go in a scatter shot sort of thing, since there really is only two things, love and fear, and in the fear category, it can be, seen as lots of different things in different folks, right?
Right.
So something you said in regards to the cognitive dissonance, because the cognitive dissonance will automatically throw some into that fear. And if it's been turned up in that scatter shot sense, wow, I see where that is real important. And especially if, again, if one hasn't exercised their quantum muscles and is used to holding a frequency, it can be quite challenging.
Right.
It certainly was for me recently here, and not insurmountable. Obviously, I feel like I handled myself really well for the first time ever, really. But the invitation, I will say this, there was definitely an invitation issued, and to swim or dance or whatever you'd like to say in that other frequency. And by turning down that invitation, it's like it amped it up even more. Mm-hmm. So I don't want anyone wanting to get the idea that, it does turning down the invitation doesn't mean it just goes away at first. It might, but it might not either. Just be aware of that. I wanted to share that because it almost felt like oh yeah, okay, are you sure? That's what it felt like.
Well, and
okay, I hear what you're saying, but are you sure? I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Well, that's why it's so important to be in control of your frequency. Be, first of all, aware of it and then control it. Because the beauty of this is, even if they have cranked the volume, which they have, you can nullify it in your own field.
Yeah.
And the importance of amplifying such a nullification, goes without saying. So, and think about the more of us coming together in that fashion, we could nullify the whole thing.
Right. Well, in essence, that's what's happening. It's just happening in a messy way because it's, kind of like, this nullifying and some who are better at, holding that can clear big pockets of it, and you can, swim in that. So I got nudged to go very linear and very basic for a moment.
Okay.
As to what are you actually talking about? Although we're actually talking about what we're talking about, but what are you saying from a linear perspective, and how do you do it?
Oh, okay.
So, if you hang out on Facebook, there's all different beings with all different energies and all different frequencies. Most of them haven't got a clue how to pay any attention to their frequency. They don't actually know how to truly feel a true feeling. It's the contrived feeling, and they're very good at those. And that's not in any way derogatory to the beings on Facebook. It's the way they've been schooled in Facebook. I mean, when you learn to Facebook, that means something, actually.
Right. Yeah.
And it ain't just, you click here, you click here, you click here. It's a whole programming. It's done
Yep.
intentionally. It is absolutely has, and you will be learning very, very quickly here, in, if you choose, in great detail and specificity, just how nefarious and evil, and I don't use that lightly at all, and sublimely delicious the whole tool that is Facebook is it's masterful. Is truly is masterful. Is it of a non-loving intent? Yes, you bet. Is it of a dark intent? Yes, absolutely. That does not in any way, however, diminish its masterfulness, because it is masterful. The way it is done and the way it has worked. What is cosmically delicious is the irony in which it and Twitter, which is in the same, there's a number of them in the same milieu, done on the same absolute deepest, basest control, dark, very dark algorithms and conscious, focused intent. But nonetheless, as masterful as it is and beautiful, truly, the irony there is that it's not working like it used to, and there are large swaths of beings who have turned it to a light weapon, weaponized the darkness into light and shifted that. Some are what I would call, they've kind of shifted it into kind of a gray zone, and they're, it's kind of just flipping the hat and reverse instead of dark, pitch black darkness, you've got, gray water darkness, and they're just turning it on. So, and again, that's something that they'll play with and they'll figure out, and then learn to make a choice. They'll learn within their own experiences to make a choice one way or the other, and then they'll choose. So anyways, when you see something, if you're on Facebook or something like that, so one way to hold your frequency, one way to be aware of it, one way to choose it is, are you looking at things, whatever you're looking at, whatever you're engaging with, whatever you're reading, engaging is probably the biggest, broadest way to describe it. Is it of love? Does it feel like it's in an open-hearted aspect where it's at 0 point or as close to 0 point as you can be, which means you look at it, you engage with it, you don't go off on it one way or the other, and you just go, okay, that's information, that's data, and you play with it however you want to, but you're not reactionary to it. You are then going, okay, I choose to go, with more of that, or however it is. So that's just a very simple way, although not necessarily simple to do, especially kind of if you're in the thrall of Facebook or Twitter. But that's a good way to do it. So if you feel like, you're shouting at the Facebook screen or the Twitter screen, that's a good indication that, you're lit up, and that's not a very high vibration to go in. So, and the other thing too is that every being is where they are predominantly. And if you haven't been aware of your frequency vibration at all, or for very long, unless you've always already, maybe unconsciously, you could say, been taking care of you and your frequency vibration, it may already be quite high. Right? It doesn't mean that everybody is, in the toilet and they got to move up. It isn't like that at all. And wherever you are is where you are. It's where you are. It's made you and given you the strengths and the resilience and part of the uniqueness of who you are. So celebrate it. And then when you look at it and go, okay, well, I'm choosing now to clean that up a bit, meaning at the very least that I'm going to focus it more intentionally. So if I like this energy frequency that I'm at and where I'm residing, I want to hold it here, and I don't want to go, and again, these are linear terms because it's not how it really works. I don't want to go down, or I don't want to go up because I like this. That's great, because now you're doing it consciously. So you're choosing consciously and you're owning it. You're empowering yourself to do that, whatever that is. That may be different than somebody else's, but it's where, if you're choosing it consciously, then for this moment that you're choosing it consciously, it's absolutely the perfect place to be. So having kind of described that a little bit, so the reason that I say that now you've got to hold your frequency, because there is so much, it's twofold. There's so much going on that will, think of an airplane in turbulence. So if you're not holding your frequency, the wings in your plane are going to go like this, or you're going to go like this, or, you know, the peanuts that they gave you, I think there's 3 in a bag. It's been a while since I've been on a plane, but you get to get 3 in a bag now. Those 3 are gone out of the bag and, you know, never to be seen again, right? So, but when you consciously hold your frequency, wherever that is for you, right, you actually mitigate that turbulence. There may be a little bit, you know, a little bit of wind shear, but it's really actually, on balance, fairly subtle compared to what it is otherwise. And so that does 2 things. That helps you and your body being, and all of your bodies, navigate and maneuver through and have a sense of flow through that for your own being, your own structure, because you don't have, you know, kind of stuff. You're also a transmitter, so you're actually the way that you're altering, I'm going to keep with the plane metaphor for a minute, the way that you're altering the path of flow through the currents, you're providing drafting lanes for others behind you who may find themselves, you know, not that good at it, so that they can get some stability in their own right. And when I'm talking about each one, it's their own thing. It doesn't matter about anybody else, because you're responsible for you and you're the expert for you. So you know best how to do it. Anyways, with that drafting, then you can go, oh, okay, I see it. And you can maybe start to, metaphorically speaking, follow how the turning is going, and then you can then navigate into your own path of that. The next part of that is to then expand your frequency. So it's this could be similar. You could hold it in a similar way that if you're always feeling stressed and you're always feeling frazzled, then you can never really have the feeling to just relax for a moment, or just take a nice deep breath, or hear yourself think, you know, is another way that we use it, right? So by doing what I just first described of holding and consciously holding that frequency, now you've actually given yourself the space to expand that frequency. Now, one thing I want to give as a programming note that, you know, I talked about turbulence and I, you know, gave the metaphors for that. So a lot of that turbulence is not external to you.
Even if it looks, feels, and tastes like it.
That's correct.
That's a very good point, BZ, that I now can clearly see finally. Yeah. And part of what I now really see is that everything everything, even other beings, are me speaking to me. Everything. I know we all kind of get up in our little feels because no, I'm my own being. I am not you. I am my own being. Okay, whatever. But somehow, on some level,
I'm sorry. I just
well, I love this. We're all one, but but not. I'm
Yeah.
like, because we are all one and we are all singular.
I was
Yes.
just laughing because you did a brilliant job of making an expansive point with a very linear attitude. But okay.
Well, hang on. We just don't know where this is going. But I have noticed that it feels to me like, even though this is like, now I really very clearly see the perfection in all of this, in the all, in a way that I really didn't grasp until now, that in every single thing, in every communication, just about, especially if I'm the kind of person, especially, well, Lisa will test to this too. I can be very intense. Yes, I can. I know that. I have big energy. Now I get that. But when I'm dealing with myself, I will apparently reach out through other people and go, okay, to me, not to them. I'm saying that through communication, my soul is now desperately trying to reach me in some cases. And so I'll hear things or see things or experience something out here in the, in the physical, ostensibly outside of myself, that is actually me out here jumping up and down saying, you idiot, can you not see I'm trying to talk to you? I'm trying to get your attention over here
So
to
let me
to
get
do
this
this,
straight.
that, or the other.
So you're what you're saying from a very linear perspective is that your soul is orchestrating conversations that will come up to you and tell you to.
Yes, yes. And if and
Everywhere.
yes,
Okay.
yes, it is.
I mean, I got that. I was just pointing that out for those who maybe didn't get what you said.
Yes, that is exactly correct. And so it, for me, that's what I've noticed. And we are communicating with ourselves on all sorts of levels, not just through other people, not just through music, not just through movies or other, the air. I think you had said this once before, BZ, about feeling the difference in the
Yes.
air currents.
Yes.
Every single thing that can be felt, heard, tasted, touched, whatever, is communicating with me. And I think it's doing that with all of us. We are
No thinking needed.
desperately trying. Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'll go. I'm not that good at this, but I'll go basic again, very linear. And you, as your well, I was gonna qualify it, but it doesn't need to because people can just catch up with it. So you are your own universe, and you are your own reality, and you are orchestrating beautifully. Whether you appreciate that beauty or not is entirely up to you, because you're orchestrating it and creating it. So that's another part that you're orchestrating. But in other words, you create your reality. You are your reality, and everything in it is your reality.
Well, of course, now I just heard a question.
Okay. Was it 3 letters?
Well, how can what now? What did you just say?
I said, was it 3 letters? As to what
Was
I
it 3
just
letters? Well, it's just, you know, because the minute I've heard a lot of folks say, well, you can't create in my reality. No, that's true. I think
That's
this
not what
might
I
be,
said. That's not what I said.
no, I'm saying that was a question.
Yes.
That is a question someone's, well, wait a minute. You can't create my reality. I can't create in your reality. No, I think that is true. You know, you can't.
That's right.
The only thing that I can think of with that is that is a co-creation that is agreed upon. Even if it's something that you're not happy about, you're agreeing to it.
Well,
Hence, okay, so
it's more simple and more, again, depending on your perspective, it's more simple and more complicated than that. So you are so large and so awesome. I hate that word, but it fits. Because I only dislike it because I don't like the way it's used in the vernacular. But you're so awesome in your creatorship abilities that you have, you know, you are your own universe and your own reality, and you pop them open. Now you can pop open a reality that there's another being there and there's a co-creative reality. You're looking at one right here. Okay.
right. And that's what I think I was referring to. It is a co-creative reality. In other words, the question that I heard was, well, you can't create a mind. Well, in this particular instance, like you were saying right here, here's 3 beings. Mm-hmm. And it is by agreement. In other words, and that's what I meant by that.
Well, yeah, but again, so I'll go back to what I said a moment ago. So it's not as, it's more simple and more complex than just that. So, and it's really hard to parse it out into just linear, because that's not the way I get or experience things anymore. So, so I create in my universe and in my reality, I create this time where I play with my computer and I have an energetic envelope that I'm creating, and I am playing with concepts and geometric codes and energy frequencies. Okay, so let me break that one down for a minute. So it's captured on an electronic device. It's captured in a digital format, which takes all that geometry and puts it in something that we humans on the planet call video from a Zoom platform, and can then transfer it in different places. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's me, that's my creation, that's how I do it, because in that I'm playing with and having expansion and having remembering and having decodings of different geometric transmissions, and I'm also transmitting those. Okay, so that's a complete thought. And right, and you're doing that, Sheila, and you're doing that, Lisa, and that's complete thought. And each being, as they call this energetic envelope forth to them, it's actually them creating the energetic envelope, and they're doing just what I described, only instead of, I am with BZ, it's whoever they are. Whenever they encounter that, right this moment before it's been quote unquote digitalized and put out, or after the fact in a moment or a month or 10 years, right? Okay, so those are complete thoughts. Yes. Okay, we're gonna put those in. Now, and you also have where there's co-creation, so that each being in its own creatorship and the energy frequencies that it has, it uses kind of as its magic wand, as its tools, as its toy box that it plays with, right? The frequencies can commingle and can communicate and can connect, right? Because remember, we're multidimensional, so I'm not just talking about in this chair, okay? And that's really important to help, with all of these ands. We're making a big batch of cookies, and so we're putting all these ingredients, and so then we can have, you could hold it that each of our individual bubbles or batches of cookie dough, I don't know why that's popped up, but I'm going to go with it because maybe someone will let me know why that's really relevant, or maybe I just want a cookie, I don't know. But so then so if this is the bowl, and then Sheila's got her bowl, and we can take part of the ceramic part of the bowl off, and now it's this bowl that's kind of the flower of life shape is what I just drew, right? It's in the geometric pattern.
Right.
And so that there's co-creation, because there's this wonderful stirring together and blending together and playing with all of those ingredients. That is each of us as a singularity and the unified field of creation in it. See, I knew they were going to tell me where the cookie metaphor came in. It's not bad, right? And so that we can then, so that's that co-creation. Okay. Now, remember, because we're still anding. Now, and with that, the same as we talked before, there's complete thought. So other beings taking just this energetic frequency envelope, right, can do the same thing. They can bring their cookie bowl, dough bowl, this, and have it, because what is the flower of life? It's the flower of life inside of a flower of life, inside of a flower of life, right? So because it's a myriad that it keeps going, and it's toroidal. Am I painting a kind of a good picture?
Yeah, that's a perfect.
Or if I just got Cookie Monster dough on my.
That was good.
No, that was perfect, because it actually helped me in another way too with why. Oh wow, this ties together a lot. Why it's so important to follow those nudges. And
it's fair to say essential.
I don't know, that just came in just like that. That's
it's essential in these moments,
right
now, to follow those.
Right. And I also saw what you were talking there about, especially when you brought in, like, okay, so it's right now it's although there are more than just the three of us, I can feel that too, that because otherwise we wouldn't get.
Yeah, but I'm trying to simplify it. So.
Right. No, I got that. But I meant, like, as it's put out and more beings join the energetic envelope, when you were speaking of that.
Yep.
What came in for me very clearly in that too was the puzzle piece collector portion of it for me. The having the things come through each of these beings as they join the energetic envelope and have either something a puzzle piece that they've had for a while rolling around, maybe even in their brain, something in here may jog that or whatever. See what I mean? So yes, it's adding again to the collective envelope of it as it goes. And if they have a nudge to comment or ask a question in regards to it, that could possibly nudge or jog someone else. And so I can see how that metaphor was, yes.
I've been told, although it's not working great, so obviously I missed some of the instructions, but I was told I could find the perfect picture to illustrate what I saw, but I haven't seen it yet. So yeah. Okay, well, tell me again and give me more specifics, and then I'll do it. Oh, this one might. Yes, because I'm sorry. You know, it's hard. You got the producer and the director and in the chair, and they're saying, you know, go do this. Okay, fine. Give me a minute.
And
I'll get right on that.
It's very important to follow those nudges.
Oh yeah, that's the only way you aren't going to stay in a line. If you aren't following nudges, then you aren't in your highest frequency.
No, that's true, right?
So that's all part of sustaining
it. Okay. So I will try to go pull this while I talk to you, or I'll talk to you while I try to pull this.
Okay.
It's just funny because I can't see your faces when I go do this, but you can see.
Right.
Yes. Well, and yes, I know that's very disquieting. I've had the same feeling, BZ, because I've done that. So when you start speaking again, though, speak loudly because your mic is doing that thing again.
Okay. I wish my mic would stop doing that thing.
Okay.
So I just want to kind of go back into the very. I'm trying to make it as I'm trying to illustrate when I say that it's simpler than that and more complex than that of what a couple of things that you've been pulling out. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I don't know if this is. You cannot minimize. Okay, I can't do that. Well, I'm sorry. Then I'm going to move you over. Okay. All right. So this is not at all what I saw in my head. What I saw in the video in my head, and I keep asking to find a way to just, you know,
give me the video.
Give you the video, but they haven't given me that yet.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm going to share this for a minute.
I kind of feel like I see in my mind's eye what you were talking about, but
no, can't you just open the thing? Why are you giving me a hard time? I don't know. Photos. Yeah. Okay, go away. All right. So the reason this is not at all what I saw. This is pretty bland compared to what I saw was a full color, fully toroidal, fully multidimensional, fully alive, and fully effervescent, as well as making had frequencies that had actual sound to them. So needless to say, this one's pretty bland. But you can see there. So this one in the middle is my cookie bowl.
Right.
Okay. And then it's also popping out. This is a good example of where multiple cookie bowls are opening so that they can connect together.
Right.
Another way you could hold this is that this is the cookie bowl, and we're talking about in the co-creative one, and all of the other cookie bowls have come into coherence with each other as we co-create this. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Now I'm not sure why I got on that. If you can help me get back to where I was, because there was a summation to that somewhere, but I got lost. Like I'm on the agility course, and I'm like, where do I go now?
Well, part of what we were sharing was the co-creation of an energetic envelope. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway in regards to all of this is the pardon me, the for holding one's frequency. Now, that's not to say, because for me, period, okay, I've been able to hold my frequency over the last little bit, because there's been some, proving for my soul that needed to go on. And but also, even within that, because there's still, some echoes of programming and conditioning and things that are still, floating around in here, not causing too much havoc, but noticeable at least.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what I have noticed, and we kind of spoke about this in our conversation with Jennifer, in regards to frequencies kind of, shaking you up a little bit. And that's so, in holding my own frequency, and yet there's still a little of that, that turbulence that you spoke of. And so that's what I kind of feel like, that in that coming into coherence for me. Okay, so I know I'm not doing this very well linearly, but what came in for me is in regards to holding my frequency. It was very clear to see that other frequencies, and I not even higher or lower or whatever, other frequencies, just different frequency that I don't reside in, that present, right? Could be in a store, could be visiting friends, could be with family members, doesn't really matter. A different frequency might shake me a little, or rattle a program within me a little, and say, hey, want to come out and play? Want to come out and play? We used to play like this. And it could be very easy, had been in the past for me, very easy to accept that invitation and say, well, yeah, I want to play. Even if I don't realize I'm saying it, I had caught myself. That's part of that conditioning and programming that isn't quite gone, but it's a little more easily manageable, I guess.
Yeah, so try this on for a minute. I'm just gonna go with the cookie metaphor. So,
Okay.
if you are, when you have your cookie bowl and you're creating your own batch of cookies, right? So that's your frequency. You're putting in what you want. You're deciding, oh, that ingredient looks good. No, I don't want that ingredient. Or, hey, some eggshell got in there. I'm going to take that out, right? Okay. And you may have a whole bunch of beings over at your house while you're making cookies. And they may be having their own bowls of cookies too, right? But unless you consciously do it and invite that coherence where you're taking your universe of your cookie bowl and opening it so that the others can come to coherence, right? Unless that's happening, so we'll hold that aside for a minute. Never shall, what's the thing? Never shall the twain shall meet, so if there's a whole bunch of you sitting around, in the living room, and y'all got your cookie bowls and you're cooking, right? And you may have a whole bunch of ingredients that you could choose from, or you're pulling some out of the air to put them in. but you're choosing what goes. If you're holding your frequency, or another way to say it is, you've got to hold your frequency if you don't want anchovies in your cookie bowl. Because someone else may think that's the cat's meow to have anchovies in their, okay, you guys are just ridiculous tonight. In their cookie bowl, right? So if you've got to hold your frequency to do that.
Yeah.
Now, you can expand your frequency at the same time that you're holding it, because you may be noticing, okay, that being they did something and they grated fresh nutmeg in theirs. Oh, that's interesting. And that had a frequency signature. And so, okay, and so you pulled that, you created that, you materialized that, and you wanted to try that. So that's an example of using linear things that we can all relate to, making cookies and putting something, maybe too much salt instead of sugar when we were kids or whatever it was, right? So we can all relate to it. That's why this is good. And we are creating, we're stirring. So you can go with this jumbled, gooey, kind of sticky, maybe lumpy thing in a bowl, and all of a sudden you give it a little time and some heat, some inspiration, right? Some cosmic juice that comes from you, and now you got this nice cookie that you can eat, which is a whole nother experience. It's a whole nother experience than what's in life. So it's kind of a good metaphor. I like it. And now I got to go find the cookies.
Beautiful. That was really nice.
I need to go find a good cookie. Actually, fresh baked cookie. Yeah, so that's what. So you could be in a store, you could be at a party, you could be on a board of Facebook, right? Because energetically you are all it's the same as a room. It's a room, right? So when you're on the Facebook boards, right, and you maybe make sure that you are holding your own frequency. You are intentionally deciding what goes in your cookie batch when you're on Twitter or Facebook or any place else like that. That's really important, because some people just think it's fun to throw all sorts of cookie ingredients that you may not want in your bowl, lobbing it in a thing, right? Okay. So that's kind of the individual things, and that's a very, very linear metaphor as to why you've got to do that. And I forgot one point. So not only is each being and how they're moving through that, and some are not doing it intentionally at all, mixing in their cookie dough. Some are not aware of how you don't have to have just, eggs, one kind of sugar and a little vanilla or something. I'm making chocolate chip cookies. So, and milk chocolate chips. You could have all sorts you could have chocolate chunk and the whole, right? Okay. So they have different ways in their frequency. But also, what's also occurring right these moments, because it's the final moments of the structures and everything coming down, and the dust settling, in the everything is coming down and the dust is settling, it's one of these moments, right? That there are, again, to describe it in a linear way, there are last gasp chefs didn't get picked on the, Iron Chef show, or I don't watch this, but, so I think that's right. There's Iron Chef. And so they didn't get picked. So they're a little mad at not only the studio audience, but the producers and all that kind of stuff, right? So Source, where they'd be a little mad at Source. Okay. So they're doing all sorts of things to irradiate the outside of your cookie bowl, or to do different things that you're probably not even aware of, because if you're not aware of them even slightly now, you haven't been aware of them for eons, because this has been going on for a long time. It's not something new. It's not a new thing. It's only not only one line of cookie chefs that are doing this. They have lots of party affiliations and okay. So that's another thing that, but if you have the intention to hold your frequency at the most genuine, I could say this very simply, most genuine, good person, open-hearted, happy frequency that you can get. That's very oversimplified, but that you can get. And if you have that intention, then you actually have, because of where we are and what's going on, you actually have put a really cool coating on the outside of your cookie bowl, and those things cannot get in. And there's also a special chef's see-through dome that's gone over your cookie bowl, and things being lobbed, bounce off. Okay?
Right.
So that makes sense?
Yes, but now, just to be clear, that's if you're managing your frequency.
No,
Yeah.
I would not describe it as managing.
No?
I would say if you are intentionally focused on holding your frequency.
Okay. Well, that's what I meant, but I gotcha.
Well,
I like the way you put it better. No, I have a different perception filter than you do. So for me, I got that, but I'm glad you put it that way because I do have a different perception filter. And you said the exact same thing I was feeling is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And
one of the reasons I said it that way is that if I'm managing something, I'm doing my best to navigate things that are a lot of constraints and shit hitting the fan, and I'm just managing it as best as I can.
Oh.
And that's very different energy.
Yes.
Than intentionally holding my frequency to where I have chose to hold it. Now, it's also cool because I don't need to know all sorts of, chuck and jive, blocking movements, right? Because I'm just going on the happy and open and, in the very simplest way, energy that way. So it's not only metaphorically, but energetically, if if the linear part of me is feeling that I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about, right? Or I don't know how to do this, or I could get it wrong, but I know when I feel happy, and I know when I feel like I'm genuinely involved and connecting, right? So I know that. Even if I could then have smart me, well, yeah, but we're not there very often. Well, okay, cool, but I still know what it is. So again, that's a way that can be held as a metaphor and an actual empirical description of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Whereas managing, you're kind of
right.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're right. Overall, generally, I would say that you're correct. For me, it's a different feel to the word managing, but again, that's a perception difference. That's a perception filter difference that I want to call very specific attention to, because when you offered the explanation instead of managing, I was like, wait a minute, that's exactly what I said. But it dawned on me specifically, that's because, see, this is a very good example for me anyway, in regards to what the hell does she mean by a perception filter? I felt like BZ just gave the same sort of words for what I said when I said managing, because to me, in my physical 3D experiencing, managing is a little bit different for me, but that's my own personal. Yes, it can have some of that aspect of what you're saying, something you have to navigate through. And that might also have something to do with where I am personally where I am right now. I am still kind of navigating. So see, for me, that's a perception filter difference, but I can see um, the energetic frequential that you were speaking of behind it, in the way that you state it. You see what I didn't say that right, but I feel the difference in between the two, is what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
part of it for me using that descriptor, I don't know, just for me, this is a very good thing for me in regards to perception filter differences, in regards to an experience of a word.
Yeah, you can actually have multiple perception filters, or multiple ways that you look at it, because I was prompted to use what I did, and when I was thinking of the managing something, I was thinking of it as if we're in an agility trial and we're doing a course, and we have things that are going on in the course, the way it's built, the turns and what's going where, and the space in between obstacles and that kind of stuff, as it relates to me and my partner Keegan and our particular strengths or bugaboos. One, and so there are times where I'm going to have to do a lot of managing to still flow with the outcome that my intention is, but I've got to manage it. So that was where, but on the other hand, I can think of managing and logistics and the whole thing, that to make this glorious, fantastic party and all the parts. And yeah, it's, so yes, I can see that. Could be that there was a lot more people asking on that side of it, and that's where it came in. But again, as with everything,
Well, no, but
take it where they are.
Right. No, exactly correct. But that was a great example, or a great illustration, as far as I'm concerned, of the differences in perception filters. The biggies, love and that sort of thing. But this is it, for me, it was a great illustration. Like I said, every single word we say to each other. I mean, it's a wonder we're actually able to communicate at all.
Well,
Really,
yes,
get any kind of idea
that you communicate because you feel into it, and I'm
getting that now.
And you meet the other where they are. You share in that envelope, you share in that experience, and then you take, for you, what the experience was, and you play with it. So some may go on this rigid, if you're attached to a filter that's yours and it's rigid, or but that's what real communication is. That's what being subject to one another is. That's what being in relationship to something, someone, some event, it's not just you don't have a relationship just with a person, because Keegan would take umbrage with that if that was the case. So would Rose, so would my plants, right? So you have, but in order to truly be in relationship, there is a true the way I would describe it is a true genuine connection. There is no robbing from one or the other. There is no sequestering from one or another, right? And there is no, I don't know why that word came in, but there's no highballing from one to another. That's interesting. That doesn't mean anything to me per se, except for a highball glass, but I don't. Anyways, okay. So when you truly are in relationship, again, if it's to another being, to an animal, to a structure, to an event, to a system, to a place, right? It doesn't matter what it is, because that trueness of it, that genuineness of it is, okay, that makes sense, it's the flower of life in between and connecting all in whatever it is those two, it could be more, are in relationship at that moment. Because nothing gives up anything, yet both share everything. Nothing is diminished, yet all is enhanced. And there is a beautiful symmetry in what I just said, that, of that. There's also a flowering of that, because that's where expansion takes place. Because when you're in that space, it is actually the genuine 0 point space, because it is the field. You're on the field of all potentiality and all possibility. And so all can come forth from that. Yet nothing is diminished from that. That's just the way I hold it.
I think that was beautiful and very well done, actually. Thank you for that.
And it would be so much fun if I could just...
Well, that's coming. I feel like that's coming, so yay.
I keep trying to get by, because I know we have computers that do this, and even though I have 3 computers sitting right here, none of them do this. But I hang out with computers that do this a lot, and it's just not sitting in this chair.
I gotcha. Well, I didn't know that you hung out with computers that do that a lot. So my statement of it's coming seems a bit prophetic in this moment of now.
Yeah, well, in large measure, it's already here. It just depends what facet of your multidimensionality.
I gotcha.
And you don't have to be that multi in the dimensional part to be here now. But that's a whole other conversation. So it is important to hold your frequency, whether it's the first time that you've thought or encountered that information or doing it, or you've been doing it for a while. And from a linear perspective, it's fair to say that there is an urgency in doing that. Only as much as that, because you are not only will be okay, but you are terrific regardless of how that flows. But only in as much for choosing or laying out or jumping on, however you want to hold it, the smoothest path to navigate these moments that we're in right this moment. Does that make sense?
Yes. After some of the frequential jarring and whatnot that I've experienced in different, moments, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense. Because I there, I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to come out.
There's a lot of that going on right here.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that. I'm not even sure how that. It's like I didn't get necessarily a picture, and I'm so dizzy. I'm not sure, and I have to share something with all of you, because I didn't want to wait till after the video and just share it with the two of you, because I think this might, for some reason, all of a sudden I think it might be important. Okay, so this has never happened before with the three of us. with anyone ever in my time of recording or even talking with anyone on Zoom. When I bought this computer, it came with a whole set of speakers. So it's got like 2 little ones and a big like woofer box or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, the 2 of them are on either side of my monitor here. And BZ, the entire time you've been speaking, I don't know if this is going to come out in the video or not, but your voice has been coming out of first this speaker and then that speaker and then both speakers. And then it's been very interesting. That's why we'll see how this comes out on camera. I doubt if it will that way.
She sounds very crystal clear this time.
Yes, she sounds very clear, very clear.
That's the best sound I've ever gotten out of your microphone.
But I just find that very interesting how yeah, no, that's not the microphone. And it could be my speakers. And I'm not sure if there's something in that for me or why I felt the need to share it on camera with everyone. But there's a reason for it.
So is it kind of like surround sound?
Well, I guess it's like, stereo speakers. So there's a left and a right.
But what you were experiencing?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. No, yes. And like I said, I'm very, very dizzy. So.
Yeah, I am too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at Lisa. She's, whoa, man.
I know, really.
This is trippy.
Well, honestly, I know that's another video. I know it's another video, but it has been a bit trippy.
I know. I want to lay down. I didn't even do anything.
Must have been some of those ingredients in the brownies, eh? I mean, in the cookies.
More than likely.
Too many cookies for me.
All right.
Well, do either one of you have anything you'd like to say? What now?
I said already that I think
what, BZ?
We've played this cookie batch out as far as it'll go.
Yes,
I think so too.
No, but it was so perfect. So thank you for that.
Time to go lick the spoon off camera.
That was delicious.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have all the usual things in all the usual places. And if you have any questions, always feel that you can either email me or put them in the comments. BZ's information is out there and Lisa's information. So till next time.